I have 35 slaves.
I have 25 slaves.
I have 37 slaves.
I have 31 slaves. Slaveryfootprint.org is a website that tells the user that slavery still exists in the present date. The website was launched with the support of the United States Department of State on September 22, 2011. This date marks the 149th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation. Additionally, slaveryfootprint.org has won various different awards while also being acknowledged by former President of the United States Barack Obama a year after its launch on the 150th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation. On the main page, the website gives a brief overview of how slavery still exists, stating that reputable brands that we know and love do not know where all of their materials come from. This is true for not only clothing, but also food, as well as other materials that are used for electronics such as smartphones and laptops. The creators of this project hope to increase the awareness of this, while also increasing awareness of both forced labor as well as child labor. They also hope to educate the population about modern-day slavery and the human exploitation that occurs in the global supply chain. With this, they hope that users encourage companies to monitor and address slavery and child labor in their supply chains. The user is also encouraged to use their purchasing powers to reward these companies that ethically produce their goods. The website states that many of these materials come from both child labor and slavery, as many of these individuals are forced to work in fields, mines, as well as various other raw material sectors. This is known as the global supply chain, and according to this website, it's this supply chain that has enslaved more people than ever before. There is also a survey that asks how many slaves work for you. After answering questions about their consumption of items typically created by forced labor and child labor, the user is given a number which indicates the amount of slaves that are needed to maintain their personal lifestyle. After receiving this number, the user has the opportunity to share their results in hopes that it will spread awareness. The creators of Slavery Footprint researched the supply chains of over 400 consumer products to determine the likely number of slaves it takes to make each of those products. The research proves that our current capitalist economic model is inherently unethical and unsustainable, as it encourages mass consumerism without considering the consequences and hidden costs of our actions.
The Slavery Footprint website has a variety of features, which make it an incredibly useful tool for educating both students and the public about how our everyday choices as consumers can have serious ethical consequences. First of all, the website's simple layout, visually appealing animations, and its simple language help keep the user highly engaged in the content. The survey is also highly interactive and guides the user by asking them simple questions about their age, gender, where they live, and their lifestyle choices. Throughout each stage of the survey, thought-provoking statements about the reality of modern-day slavery are laid out on the page in a way that informs, yet doesn't completely overwhelm, the user. The website makes it easy to share your results through social media, take action to counteract your score, and revisit your footprint later. It will also give you access to the Free World mobile app, which is a resource that consumers can use to demand slavery-free products and better ethical standards in the supply chain. Although this resource is a great educational tool, it also has some limitations which should be taken into account. While completing the survey, the website requires users to know very specific, in-depth information about their consumer choices that they may not know offhand. For example, the survey requires users to know what percentage of their diet is made up of meat, grain, and dairy products. It also asks users to state how many pairs of pants and shirts they have in their wardrobe and how many of their electronics are ethically sourced. If users do not know all of this information, their final calculated slavery footprint score may not be completely accurate. Most importantly, the website does not directly state how modern-day slavery, poverty, and environmental issues are connected. In order to offer cheap products to entice the consumer, companies often cut corners in the supply chain by manufacturing their products in places where wages are low and environmental standards are minimal. This means that in addition to exploiting their workers, companies are also creating pollution and serious environmental damage which the consumer usually doesn't know about when they choose to buy that product. Although the lack of information about this connection between ethical and environmental concerns is a definite flaw for this resource, educators could offset this by incorporating other resources and information about sustainability and unsustainable practices in the supply chain.
The benefit of this resource is that it doesn't impose one single view or solution for how to handle this issue. It provides the public with a hard truth in the form of a shocking number, and then leaves the responsibility for action in the hands of the reader. If they want more information, they can move further into the website or sign up for emails. This resource can be used to educate the public on the ethical consequences of their choices as a consumer. It can also be used to start educating people on the idea that we often support practices that exploit others without even realizing it, and we need to become better informed, more ethical, and responsible consumers in order to counteract this massive global problem. To educate educators, the website could provide a framework or example for a professional development day aimed at introducing and incorporating human rights into the very classroom and its discussions. Parents and teachers are the leaders of a large community, so educating them with this type of resource creates a ripple effect. It is hard to ignore. Lifestyles and behaviors are taught and passed down, so introducing awareness to parents and adults in the general public will educate the current populace, but also reach the younger generations. People can make their own decisions about what to do with the information provided, but this resource eliminates the excuse of ignorance. It debunks the common myth that slavery no longer exists. The slavery footprint calculator could also be used by teachers as a rationale for introducing conversations about slavery into the classroom. It could be sent home so that parents can fill out the survey and open discussions with their children about the topic.
This website provides a shocking visual representation of modern-day slavery and how we enable the slavery systems that exist in the world today. This resource would have to be used in different ways in a classroom based on the age of the children involved, as the survey discusses sex slavery. For older students using this resource in the classroom, you could use each of the page headings as lesson topics within a unit, and then have the student complete the quiz to provide a visual for why we need to be conscious consumers. Of course, you would need to preface the quiz with a discussion about sex slavery so that students would be prepared, and after the quiz, you would need to have a debriefing conversation to answer any questions that students may have. For intermediate grades, you could have students research the sustainability and labor policies of their favorite companies. They could look at things such as where they get their materials from, how many hours do they work a day, and what are the wages. For younger students, you could do a where does this come from unit. Have students look at tags on their clothing and things to see where they're made, and find the places on a map. You could discuss why these things are made in certain areas more than others in relation to labor and wages. All ages could use this information for cross-curricular learning as well. Math would be a great unit to tie into by looking at the hours and pay of employees in different areas.
The Slavery Footprint website is an incredibly powerful and thought-provoking wake-up call to us all. As we go about our everyday lives, we usually don't think about the human costs that go into our clothes, phones, electronics, food, and other products that we use and buy on an everyday basis. The Slavery Footprint website aims to educate consumers to learn about their impacts and become advocates for more responsible and ethical practices. With this resource, people of all ages will realize that they can use their buying power to support companies that align with their values. The Slavery Footprint website challenges us to become more empowered and informed consumers in order to create a more ethical and sustainable world.
How many slaves do you have?